Yes guys, a very good morning and welcome to a new daily market outlook for the major dollar pairs and of course gold. So diving in and starting off with the dollar index. The dollar index saw a massive crash in towards the downside yesterday. Pretty much originated from this entire area, of course, on the daily from this buy before the sell. So this overall area of supply is what pushed price back in towards the downside. So current order flow is very, very clearly bearish in towards the downside. And until we can regain this zone over here and this high, we are still going to be continuing on downwards in towards the downside. So overall, from a premium versus discount perspective, we are nearly inside the discount, nearly underneath that 50% mark. And from there, of course, we will definitely look for a further upside movement from the dollar. But in the meantime, we can see that we're currently stalling inside this sell before the buy candle. Overall, it's this entire sell before the buy. That's currently where the market is stalling inside the zone, and I do expect a pullback from inside here, at least back up in towards 104.848. So keep that in mind when trading. Overall, looking at the 4-hour time frame over here, we can clearly see that we had that ascending wedge formation. Of course, I was looking and keeping an eye out on what would happen potentially with kind of like a 1-2-3 play and then that downside movement. So I'm not gonna lie, it did dump deeper in towards the downside or faster in towards downside than I expected. But regardless, we can clearly now see that, of course, after this massive overextend moving towards the downside, after the break of structure, we would want to see a pullback occur very, very soon. So overall, that is what I'm now looking for, a pullback in towards the highs. Potentially what we could see is, of course, or what a tail sign is that a potential pullback is going to be incoming, is a change in the fractal structure. So this is currently our fractal low. What I would like to see is one more break for that fractal low, kind of get out those stops, because a lot of people, of course, logically are starting to buy here because they expect the price to retrace after such a big move in towards the downside. So yeah, one more push down, then this becomes, let me just clean up for you guys, then this becomes over here your fractal high, and then we could see something like this, then demand is created over here, and then we can look for those longs back up in towards that bearish order flow area, which overall is of course from here to here. So this entire zone would then act as your area of supply, so push in towards there, and then, for example, continuation, depending on how we, of course, come in towards this zone and what the market is doing at that time of day. So that's what I'm looking for on the dollar index. Now moving on in towards euro dollar, because we have to keep in mind that the dollar index might be ready to make a pullback. If we then look at the daily time frame, we can clearly see that pretty much the same as on the dollar index occurred. And this is why, guys, I'm a very big fan of drawing in order flow, because overall, if we look at order flow, you take the entire sell before the buy from wick to wick, and then we can very clearly see price taps in, moves back out again. But regardless, going in towards the daily time frame over here, we've now made a pullback in towards premium pricing, in the sense that we are now above the 50% mark, above this blue line, tapped in towards this area of supply. So from here, I definitely do start to expect that we could start seeing a potential push in towards the downside once again. However, let's wait for some confirmation, because of course the bullish momentum is very high at the moment. So what I would like to see is some kind of like structure forming in towards the highs, and then some breaks of the lows, and then of course a further downside push. I'm not just going to start randomly selling at the end of a massive bullish impulse because I think it's time to go short. No, I'm going to be waiting for structural development, and then we're going to go short. But looking at this daily time frame, I can see, okay, we're inside premium, we're inside supply, so a further push in towards the downside is now very, very possible. Looking at the 4-hour, then in turn, we can clearly see, okay, we have the 4-hour break of structure over here. And after that 4-hour break of structure, what do we expect? We expect a pullback. When do we expect a pullback? Well, especially when we're inside an area of supply, but also when we start seeing fractal or internal structure changes. So what I'm going to be looking for at the moment, this is again your fractal high, and all the way down here is your fractal low. So preferably what you now want to see is one more push up or something like this, and then, for example, the sell-off in towards the downside, because then it will be far easier to get in. So what I'm now just waiting for is price development. Wait for that high to get taken out, then this becomes your low, wait for that low break, and then we start shorting from supply. Or we just start shorting later in the run from the supply zones, which are going to be created in the way down in towards this entire range over here, in towards this sell before the buy. That's, of course, then where you will be wanting to take profit. So that's euro dollar. Not going to go into 15 because I think it's very clear what we're waiting for here on the 4-hour time frame. Now moving on in towards pound dollar. So pound dollar over here is pretty much the setup which I of course discussed in yesterday's video. So a very beautiful setup occurred over there. Look at the daily time frame. Of course, we have now started to pull back in towards the premium. Not just yet in the premium. Still has some room to move up higher, in my opinion. Back up in towards 125.881 over here. This buy before the sell, very clear. We're now currently stalling inside supply over here, but not my favorite area as of now. But what I do see is that we have kind of this 1, 2, 3 going on over here, kind of this wedge formation in towards the highs over here. So what I'm keeping an eye out on is, of course, that there is potential for further downside. However, same as on euro dollar, what I'm going to be looking for is a fractal change in structure. But what I want to talk about is, of course, the long position which I took yesterday and discussed very clearly in yesterday's video. So make sure to watch that back. Very clear demand zone here on the daily. We can see we tap in and we start pushing in towards the upside. But where it really got interesting was, of course, the 4-hour time frame. So on the 4-hour time frame, we are swing bullish, right? So we tap in towards daily demand. We tap in towards kind of like the only fresh area of 4-hour demand. That's where we start reversing from, in towards the upside. So from that moment onwards, we can start looking for long. So what I do is I follow the fractal structure. So remember, I pointed out, okay, this was kind of like your first long. Then in yesterday's video, again, this is your fractal high. Once that fractal high gets broken or got broken by this bullish candle over here, you now have pretty much this sell for the buy. So what you then want to do is pretty much based on fractal structure. This is your low over here. And on this bullish candle, we had our high. So that is pretty much your, let's say, premium versus discount range. So if you then look at where demand is in this sell for the buy, you can see it's in discount. So what I pretty much just did, and what my strategy is to capitalize kind of like on this bullish momentum that we at time C, is then to simply put my order based on this sell for the buy, stop loss underneath demand, and then I target, of course, ultimately this over here. So I shared a screenshot of this trade as well in the Discord, so make sure to join that. But then you have a very simple 1 to 9.82 over here if you target, of course, the creation of a new 4-hour swing high. So yeah, very beautiful trade, very simple setup, and yeah, very beautiful overall. So what do we expect now? Because of course that's what everybody's interested in. Well, overall, this is your fractal high. And again, this is still your fractal low. So ultimately what we want to see again is a push up higher and then, for example, push down, because then this is your fractal low. Then you have like a structural break, which you can trade on. If price just starts dumping down, I'll just let it do its thing, unless we kind of like start forming some internal structure where we get a push, then a pullback, then a push, then a pullback, then a push back down in towards these prices. Because ultimately it does look like GBPUSD should make a pullback, but when that's going to happen, like I need structure to really decide on where that's going to happen. So I need structural development to take place, and then it will be easier for me to say, okay, this is what I expect. But ultimately, if this happens, I'll be a big fan. And if we just start trickling down, then look for the internal structure forming, and you could start shorting on the creation of supply. So yeah, that is that. The new break of structure is, of course, over here on this high. So 4-hour BOS. Moving on in towards Kiwi dollar, NZDUSD. So NZDUSD, of course, higher prices back up in towards daily supply, which we were kind of looking for at the beginning. I was expecting price to push slightly lower down in towards this demand zone. Didn't happen, is what it is. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, what we did, of course, discuss in yesterday's video, however, was the descending corrective price action that we had. And after that descending corrective price action, of course, we expect an impulse in towards the highs. This strong of an impulse I did not expect, because we pretty much disregarded any area of supply that we had. So what I'm now looking for is, going back in towards the daily, is, okay, how are we going to react to this area of price? And otherwise, I will be looking for potential higher prices and a daily break of structure upon the break of this high over here. But yeah, I'll be waiting. This is a nice area to look for shorts. Going in towards the 4-hour, however, or going in towards the 4-hour, we can now very clearly see over here that this is now your 4-hour supply zone that we have over here. So if we now see a push down, and this bearish candle over here is your fractal low, and it's also could be seen as demand. If we take out this low over here of this bearish candle, this sell for the buy, then make a pullback, we have our area of supply over there, then I'll be shorting back in towards the downside 100%. So that's what I'm waiting for on NZDUSD. Break of this low, then I go short. Okay, so that's NZDUSD. Last for gold. So gold did very beautiful price action yesterday, beautiful. Of course, tapped in towards our daily area of demand and reversed from there. So you guys know I was looking for a potential long. Preferably, you would have seen price just move slightly lower, slightly lower in towards this sub for the buy. But of course, we could take the entire sub for the buy. We tapped in towards there. So from that moment onwards, I was looking at this fractal structure change, and I was looking to go long. Pretty much the exact same setup to some extent as on pound dollar earlier that week, but yeah, didn't get tagged in with stop loss underneath the lows. Yeah, would have been a very beautiful 1 to 3, but it is what it is. Yeah, for now, just expecting higher prices on gold because we have now broken this high over here. So this sell for the buy is now your demand zone, but you can see you're already kind of wicked in towards there. So yeah, expecting higher prices from gold, at least back up in towards here around 1982 for today. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wish you all a fantastic day, and we will speak very, very soon. Thanks, guys.